undoubtedly, but not in the least friendly. They were the eyes of one who bitterly resented the presence of an intruder. The light flickered, then flamed up once more and brought into view the features that belonged with the eyes. Dorothy would have screamed had it not been for the lump in her throat. A step came nearer and nearer from some distant part of the house, accompanied by a cheery, familiar whistle. Still the stern, malicious face held her spellbound, and even when Harlan came in with his load of wood, she could not turn away. "Now," he said, "we'll start a fire and hang ourselves up to dry." "What is it?" asked Dorothy, her lips scarcely moving. His eyes followed hers. "Uncle Ebenezer's portrait," he answered. "Why, Dorothy Carr, I believe you're scared." "I was scared," she admitted, reluctantly, after a brief silence, smiling a little at her own foolishness. "It's so dark and gloomy in here, and you were gone so long." Her voice trailed off into an indistinct murmur, but she still shuddered in spite of herself. "Funny old place," commented Harlan, kneeling on the hearth and laying kindlings, log cabin fashion, in the fireplace. "If an architect planned it, he must have gone crazy the week before he did it." "Or at the time. Don't, dear. Wait a minute. Let's light our first fire together." He smiled as she slipped to her knees beside him, and his hand held hers while the blazing splinter set the pine kindling aflame. Quickly the whole room was aglow with light and warmth, in cheerful contrast to the stormy tumult outside. "Somebody said once," observed Harlan, as they drew their chairs close to the hearth, "that 4 feet on a fender are sufficient for happiness." "Depends altogether on the feet," rejoined Dorothy, quickly. "I wouldn't want Uncle Ebeneezer sitting here beside me. No disrespect intended to your relation, as such." "Poor old duck," said Harlan, kindly. "Life was never very good to him, and death took away the only thing he ever loved. Aunt Rebecca," he continued, feeling her unspoken question. "She died suddenly, when they had been married only 3 or 4 weeks." "Like us," whispered Dorothy, for the first time conscious of a tenderness toward the departed Mr. Judson of Judson Centre. "It was 4 weeks ago to day, wasn't it?" he mused, instinctively seeking her hand. "I thought you'd forgotten," she smiled back at him. "I feel like an old married woman already." "You don't look it," he returned, gently. Few would have called her beautiful, but love brings beauty with it, and Harlan saw an exquisite loveliness in the deep, dark eyes, the brown hair that rippled and shone in the firelight, the smooth, creamy skin, and the sensitive mouth that betrayed every passing mood. "None the less, I am," she went on. "I've grown so used to seeing Mrs. James Harlan Carr on my visiting cards that I've forgotten there ever was such a person as Miss Dorothy Locke, who used to get letters and go calling when she wasn't too busy, and have things sent to her when she had the money to buy them." "I hope," Harlan stumbled awkwardly over the words, "I hope you'll never be sorry." "I haven't been yet," she laughed, "and it's 4 whole weeks. Come, let's go on an exploring expedition. I'm dry both inside and out, and most terribly hungry." Each took a candle, and Harlan led the way, in and out of unexpected doors, queer, winding passages, and lonely, untenanted rooms. Originally, the house had been simple enough in structure, but wing after wing had been added until the first design, if it could be dignified by that name, had been wholly obscured. From each room branched a series of apartments, a sitting room, surrounded by bedrooms, each of which contained 2 or sometimes 3 beds. A combined kitchen and dining room was in every separate wing, with an outside door. "I wonder," cried Dorothy, "if we've come to an orphan asylum." "Heaven knows what we've come to," muttered Harlan. "You know, I never was here before." "Did Uncle Ebeneezer have a large family?" "Oh, Aunt Rebecca, who died very soon, as I told you. Mother was his only sister, and I her only child, so it wasn't on our side." "Perhaps," observed Dorothy, "Rebecca had relations."